I never envisaged I'd hear the words my spouse hurled at me that evening. "You're inadequate in bed, Arthur," she said frigidly. Her arms were clasped across her chest like she had just pronounced some ultimate verdict. We had been wed for 6 years, and never, not once, had she uttered anything like that to me. I stood there, aghast, as though the bedrock of our union had fractured under my feet. It commenced as a minor dispute about household duties. Beatrice, my spouse, was irritable that I hadn't folded the washing after returning home from work. I was fatigued, drained after lecturing late at the local academy, and I conveyed her I'd do it in the morning. Somehow, that minor irritation escalated. She commenced finding fault about everything. How I neglected to dispose of the refuse. How I didn't organize evenings out anymore. How I wasn't as attentive as I used to be. Then, like a dagger, she delivered that line, "You're inadequate in bed." The room fell silent. My chest constricted. My hands turned cold. That wasn't just an insult. It was shame. The kind that incises deeper because it originates from the one person who's supposed to view you at your most susceptible and still safeguard you. I chortled acidly, endeavoring to shield myself from the impact. "Seriously, Beatrice, that's where we're venturing now." Her lips curled in a smirk. "I'm merely being truthful. Maybe if you ceased being so tedious, I wouldn't feel like I was missing out." I wanted to bellow, to tell her how ruthless she was being. But before I could respond, a voice from the threshold froze both of us. It was her close mate, Charlotte, who had arrived earlier for wine. She must have overheard everything. She stepped into the sitting room, arms clasped, her gaze keen on Beatrice. "That's untrue," Charlotte said, her voice steady, almost piercing, cutting. "Do not lie to him like that. You and I both know he's not the difficulty problem here." Beatrice's face lost its color, drained of color, then turned, scarlet flushed red with fury. She whirled, spun toward Charlotte, eyes wide, like she had just been betrayed in the most dreadful, worst possible way. "What did you just say?" she snapped. Beatrice's voice quivered, shook half with rage, half with panic. "Charlotte, you have no entitlement, right?" But Charlotte didn't flinch. She stood her ground, gaze fixed on my spouse. "No entitlement, Beatrice. You just shamed, humiliated your husband over something that isn't even accurate, true. I've heard you boast, brag to me before about how passionate your evenings, nights are with him. Do not feign act like you've been enduring hardship, suffering." My jaw nearly dropped. I wasn't sure what astonished, stunned me more. The fact that Charlotte was championing, defending me, or the disclosure, revelation that my spouse had once spoken, favorably, talked positively about our intimacy to her mate. Beatrice's lips trembled as she tried to form utterance's words, but all that emerged came out was a sharp, "Hold your tongue, Charlotte." I sat immobilized, frozen on the settee couch, trapped between craving to vanish, wanting to disappear, and craving to demand answers. The air in the room grew more oppressive, heavier by the second. Beatrice's hands quivered as she grabbed a tumbler glass from the coffee table and slammed it down. "Why are you even saying this? What's your objective angle?" Charlotte let out an acerbic laugh, bitter laugh. "My objective? Perhaps, maybe. I'm just weary, tired of observing you dismantle, tear down A man who genuinely cherishes, loves you. You drive him away, then you reproach, blame him. You shame him just to conceal, cover your own culpability. Culpability. I finally spoke, my voice low. What culpability? Beatrice turned to me, her eyes darting like a caged creature, trapped animal. She parted, opened her mouth, then closed it again. Charlotte responded instead, her tone sharp and unyielding. She's been messaging another fellow, Arthur. I've witnessed, seen it. I wasn't going to intervene, get involved. But hearing her utter what she just declared, no, you do not merit that. The floor might well have collapsed beneath me. My ears rang. My pulse thundered in my temples. I gazed at Beatrice, my spouse, the woman I trusted with every part of myself. Is that accurate? I inquired, my voice trembling. Beatrice's face was pallid now, all her bravado dissipated. It's not what you conceive, think, she stuttered, her voice diminutive small. Charlotte shook her head, revulsion etched across her features. Do not lie again, Beatrice. He merits, deserves, the veracity, truth. You've been dismantling him to conceal your own betrayal. That's what this is truly about, isn't it? Beatrice's lips parted, but no utterances emerged. Her silence was louder than any admission, confession. The hush stretched until it became intolerable. I felt as if the walls were closing in, each second more burdensome than the last. My spouse, the woman I assumed I knew better than anyone, sat in front of me, unable to refute, deny the veracity. That silence alone conveyed, told me everything. Beatrice, I whispered, my voice fracturing, breaking. After all we've traversed, been through, why? Her eyes filled with tears. But I observed they weren't the tears of remorse, Pachtawa. They were the tears of being exposed. I didn't intend for it to occur, happen, she muttered, fumbling with her utterances. A different fellow, Daniel, was just someone who made me feel desired. I never ceased cherishing, loving you. I just... Stop, I interrupted, cut her off. The word echoed in the room like a verdict. My chest constricted, but I compelled, forced myself to keep respiring, breathing, to keep articulating, speaking. You shamed me, declared I wasn't sufficient, good enough. All because you couldn't confront, face your own falsehoods, lies. Do you grasp, realize what you've perpetrated, done? Beatrice reached out, but I retreated, pulled away before her hand could touch mine. The mere conception, thought of her proximity, closeness, made my skin crawl. She looked to Charlotte as if pleading for assistance, backup. But Charlotte's face was frigid. I'm finished concealing, covering for you, Charlotte said sharply. You injured, hurt him to protect yourself, and I won't countenance, stand by it anymore. If you cherished him, you wouldn't have obliterated, destroyed his trust just to preserve appearances, save face. For the first time in our union, I witnessed Beatrice cornered, with no sanctuary, escape. The sharp-tongued woman who once wielded utterances like weapons now sat speechless, stripped of her safeguards, defenses. I stood slowly, my hands quivering, shaking, my heart torn between devastation and an unfamiliar composure, clarity. I do not know what the future holds, Beatrice, but I apprehend, know this. Our union cannot survive on falsehoods, and I won't permit, let you, to render me valueless, worthless, because of your blunders, mistakes. Beatrice sobbed quietly, but I did not wait for her pretexts, excuses. I walked to the threshold, my body ponderous, heavy, but my mind strangely calm. Charlotte, afforded, gave me a small, supportive nod as I passed her. That evening marked the death of the union I once believed unbreakable. Agony burned deep, but beneath it was something novel: determination, resolve. Beatrice's betrayal had shattered me, but it had also liberated me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing firmly on my own 2 feet, prepared to rebuild a life without her shadows darkening my path.